Hey guys, what is up? This is Stephanie, aka The Limitless Babe, reminding you today and every day that you are limitless. So I've been MIA, but I gotta tell you before we go into anything, I actually just recorded this video for you guys. An hour and 9 minutes of video for you guys. And for whatever reason, good old Mackie here decided that he wasn't gonna save it. So it all is gone. And I'm taking that as my hint from God that maybe it was too long. Maybe God's telling me, take it down a notch. Everybody don't need all the details. Because basically what I filled you guys in on is everything that has been going on in the last week. And yeah, the fact that it got deleted tells me that you didn't need to know all of that. So we're starting over. I'm not going to lie. I'm feeling a little bit defeated because of that. Because I'm exhausted and I was ready to take a nap as soon as I was done. But I guess, again, the universe, source, God, y'all had other plans. So here we are. Take two. Today's topic is kind of just me flying by the seat of my pants, talking about what's been going on, but gearing towards the theme of what you resist persists. So as some of you may or may not know, I took a week off from my channel. I'm not sure when this is going to air, so it's possibly even 2 weeks, because I lost my grandmother. I also, in the time of preparing to say goodbye to her and during the whole funeral preparation process, I lost my oldest and first dog for me. I lost my oldest dog, and it was the first dog that I owned completely on my own. Like, I moved into my first solo apartment with her. I had that dog for 15 and a half years. She was my heart. She was my world. Anyone who knows me for a few years knows that, like, before Gracie came around, everywhere I went, Muriel followed. She was my little lamb. So, I mean, I'm going to take a quick moment and put some pictures here for you guys if I can. If I edit this, I will attach some photos so that you guys can see her and share in my joy and my mourning all at the same time. So needless to say, and like I said, the fact that the other video got deleted tells me that maybe you don't need all the details. I initially wanted to make this video to fill you guys in because I do believe that while I needed some time for myself to heal and to go through what I was going through, I also feel that a big part of my channel is keeping it real, keeping it authentic, letting you guys into my world so that I can hopefully help someone else with similar situations. But for whatever reason, this video got deleted, and we're taking that as a sign that I'm not going to give you all the details. But the topic, what you resist persists. I have, I guess, like three parts to this from what I remember in the last video that I made. And I guess we'll start actually backwards. So the last one I started in a different order. I just told you guys about my grandmother and my baby girl passing. And let's talk about grief and mourning. Let's talk about the fact that when you're grieving the loss of someone or something, it doesn't matter what it is. There is sometimes that inclination, depending on how you were raised, but depending on your socialization, depending on your circumstances and your surroundings, you might have the inclination or the tendency to suppress. You might have the inclination or the tendency to compartmentalize or to hide your true feelings because you don't want other people to feel uncomfortable. Well, that's not doing you any good. That's not serving you. There's a reason that there are stages to grieving. There's a reason that there is a grieving process. And when you don't allow yourself to feel your feelings, whatever that looks like, however you grieve, because everybody feels things differently. But when you don't allow yourself to do that, your feelings don't go away. The phrase is, what you resist persists. And it's very true, and I can testify to that from my own experiences, my own life, and other situations that I've dealt with. And for that reason, these last two deaths I have not been resisting. I have been allowing myself to feel all the feels. And that's why I decided that for myself, I needed to take time off from anything that wasn't absolutely necessary. And unfortunately, while I do enjoy doing this, this is not my full-time job. I have a child to take care of, and this wasn't my priority during my healing and grieving. So I had to let this go for the week and give myself that time. So thank you for understanding. Thank you for sticking with me. And thank you for allowing me space. Those of you that reached out with your condolences, thank you for that. Thank you for your support. But yeah, if you don't let yourself feel, it doesn't go away. Not only does it not go away, it builds up and builds up and builds up. It's like taking a hose, a garden hose that's on full blast, and bending it. Now, technically, the water stopped coming out, correct? But is it stopped from building up on this end? Or is it just building more and more and more pressure, and eventually that hose is either going to break or burst or whatever's going to happen, but it's not going to be good. So that's how we are, in a sense. Where if we don't allow ourselves to release, and release in healthy ways, healthy outlets, healthy means, healthy methods, it can be catastrophic in the long run. So, in my personal experience and situation, this may sound odd, but again, if the other video had saved, you would know the ins and outs of why I feel how I feel. And I'll try to just do it quickly. But like, losing my grandmother was hard. But at the end of the day, I recognize that she lived for 101 years. That is way more years than many people get. And that's a blessing. But it can also be a curse. And I say that because, so basically I'm acknowledging right now that she lived a long, full life. But I'm also acknowledging and letting you know that in the latter years, in the years where she lost her independence, in the years where she lost her dear roommate, my aunt, her daughter, like in those years, in this time, she went through having a brain tumor removed at 90 or 91. I forget the exact age. Like, she's been through things, and I just feel like in the last few years, dementia, like not remembering and having to pretend like you remember what you were supposed to persist, having to pretend like you know what's going on, but you have no idea what's going on. I would notice when I would visit her and spend time with her, a sadness. No matter how much she tried to smile and laugh and pretend that she was good, I saw sadness. So there's those two things. So that her age, the sadness that I saw, and what was my other one? Damn it, it was so good. Oh, and the last one, making it a little bit easier for me, is, again, as I just said, my grandmother also had a brain tumor, a large baseball-sized brain tumor removed from her brain, obviously, when she was 90 or 91. I don't remember the exact year that it happened. And since then, there have been other issues that have arisen, and my point being, I've said goodbye to her in anticipation of what was coming so many times. Like, there's been so many times that I've had to say goodbye that I think while it felt awful in those times, it was always a blessing because it never really was goodbye. So I always had more time. But also, I think little by little, it was a blessing in the long run, because little by little, it made my muscles a little bit stronger to accept now when it wasn't, not when it was, when I'm trying to think of how to phrase it in my head. It made it easier to accept it now that it was really happening. You know, like a false alarm. It wasn't a false alarm. That's where I was trying to go before, but my brain couldn't process the words or the phrase. Still in a little bit of a fog, guys. Keeping it real. So, yeah, saying goodbye to her so many times was definitely a blessing in disguise. Because not only did each time I have more time with her, but also I was getting stronger each time and more ready to finally have that goodbye stick. So I guess I didn't say this in the last one, but in the last video, but something that I will also point out is that I find it very interesting how my intuition has been gradually rebuilding and getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And this is something that I'm very aware of. And, you know, I think I discussed this in my domestic violence video, that there was a time when I felt like my intuition was kind of like ripped away from me out of shock and, you know, PTSD and a lot of things that I went through. But I do see that my intuition has been rebuilding and getting better and better and better. And yes, I had been communicating with my mom about what was going on with my grandmother in the few days prior. And we had just celebrated her 101st birthday. We had a birthday party for her. Like, who gets to do that? Who gets to celebrate 101 years with a loved one? Not many people. I mean, I used to joke all the time and say, she's my werewolf. Like, we have werewolf blood in our veins because no matter what gets thrown at this woman, she survives. And I'm proud to say that. I'm proud to say that, like, we come from a tough, strong line of women. Now, granted, sometimes you don't want to and don't need to be so tough. And sometimes that can actually be a detriment because you get so tough that you don't know how to soften up. But I am grateful for that tool of being strong, of being resilient. And I think that sometimes we forget how resilient we are when we're going through difficult circumstances. But this woman, my grandmother, Graceland's great-grandmother, was a testament of how resilient my bloodline is. And the fact that whether or not I feel it in the moment, I can survive anything. With God's help, with my destiny in line, like, I can survive anything. I just can't forget who I come from. But that's not where my point was going. I forget where my point was going because you guys know how I do, and you know I forget everything. But oh man, what was it? I don't know. But yeah, so there are many reasons why it wasn't so hard. It was a shock, and it was, oh, my intuition. It always comes back, guys. So yeah, my intuition has been building and building gradually, and we just celebrated her 101st birthday. And even at her birthday celebration, I noticed that when we got there, she seemed really good and happy and like singing and like in a really great state. Because, you know, there's good days and bad days, especially when you have dementia. She was having a really good day. But by the end of the day, like, I saw the shift happen, because it does happen, you know, and it doesn't stay. They don't always stay in that great space. And she shifted, and then I just saw an emptiness and a sadness. And I noticed, like, okay, she doesn't look good. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to worry anybody. But, like, as the week progressed, my mom said that she started noticing that, like, okay, like, she's not looking so great. So I'm wondering if what I saw on her birthday was, again, my intuition warning me and preparing me and giving me the tools that I needed to be at peace with everything. And I also got that extra time to know, okay, you don't look good. And I got to, like, rub her leg and hold her hand and, like, tell her I love her. And make sure that Gracie got to, like, you know, get some kisses in and some love in. So few days, I want to say she passed on Wednesday, and Sunday, it was actually Easter Sunday, my mom told me that she got a call from the nursing home that, like, she was really off, that they noticed now that something's really off. And my mom went and she sent me a picture, and I knew it. I said, okay, like, in my heart, I just felt it, like, yeah, this is it. Like, this is really it. So, whatchamacallit, sorry, I got lost in thought for a second. So I made the decision that on Tuesday, when I finished work, I was just going to go and spend a few hours there and give her my love, say goodbye, say all the things that maybe were left unsaid, and find my peace. And I got to tell you guys that I'm so grateful for that. I think that that's also what makes it feel a little bit easier to say goodbye, is because I know that I had that opportunity. I know that I got that chance to tell her what I needed to, and it was hard. Like, I didn't expect to get as emotional about it as I did. Excuse me, I had to sneeze. Oh, excuse me. Ooh. Excuse me. You know they come in threes, so I'm just waiting. Like death, sneezes come in threes, because I also lost 3 people in the last month. I actually haven't told you guys about that. We'll catch on with that. But hold on. Oh. Okay, I think I was able to suppress it. Oh God, I resisted it. Is it gonna persist? I don't know. All right, so I'm grateful that I got to say goodbye, and I didn't expect to feel as much come up when I saw her, but I also didn't expect to really see her as I did. Like I said, my mother had sent me a picture, and I kind of knew what I was walking into. Like, from here up, she was just like in a zone, like, just, her eyes were open, but her mouth was also open. She was breathing really heavy. She looked like a corpse already. It was not pretty. It wasn't good. It wasn't a way to live. It wasn't how she would ever wanted to live or be seen or remembered. My grandmother always made sure that she was always elegant. Like, she always wanted to make sure that she looked her best and had her makeup on, had her blush. She always had, like, I guess because as she got older, she couldn't see what she was doing, but she always had, like, almost like neon cheeks, because, like, she had her blush on no matter what. But before she got older, I swear, like, she knew how to do her makeup, and she was an elegant lady. Like, when she had to get dressed up, she always looked really sharp. So I'm grateful that my intuition was strong enough to tell me, you better say your goodbyes, and you better make your peaces with everything, because make your peace with everything, because this is it. You've been preparing for this day for a long time, and this is it. And sure enough, it was. And I'm also grateful that something inside me, again, my intuition, my inner voice, told me, tell your brother to come. And so I reached out to my brother, and I texted him, and I said, hey, like, Abuela's not doing good. Abuela is, if you don't know, it's grandmother in Spanish. Abuela's not doing good, and I think if you can, you should try to come see her today. And he did. And I'm grateful that he got that opportunity too, because I know, like, at least there's no regrets. You know, we both got to see her. We both got to say our goodbyes, and it was hard, but we got to do it. And the next morning, early in the morning, it's funny, I actually didn't even get the call from my parents. My girlfriend was, she was going to go to, my dad owns a mechanic shop, and she was going to drop her car off to him, and I was going to go pick her up so that I could bring her back home to her house. And she called me when she was on her way down there, I don't know if it was on her way down there, when she was already there, because she called my dad, and apparently he told her what had happened. So she called me, and she told me. And I'm grateful that she told me. And, you know, it was hard. It was hard to hear, but I was prepared. I said my piece. I knew how I had felt. I know that I had been preparing for this for 10 years, and I was ready. And I got to hear it from maybe not a family member, but someone that I love dearly, someone that is very important in my life, and I'm grateful for her. So I want to talk about death and, again, the grieving process and resisting and persisting. And I feel like you're probably wondering, like, well, what are you talking about, Steph? Because this has nothing to do with the topic that you said. But it does, I promise. Like, it's all going to make sense full circle. I think that the first video probably was a little more seamless, but I'm just trying to catch up and get you guys up to date. So, you know, it didn't get deleted, we'd be fine. But I guess this is just me accepting what is. So another reason why I think I feel at peace with the loss of my grandmother. So there's actually a lot of reasons. Like, now that I'm really talking it out and thinking about it, I'm very fortunate and blessed that a few years ago, I mean, it wasn't a blessing for everybody, I'm sure, but for me, it was a blessing. A girlfriend of mine, she's one of the most beautiful people that I've ever met. Like, inside, outside, she's just kind and good. But she's had bad luck with love and relationships, and has had not one but two loves of her life pass away on her. A fiance and a newlywed husband. And I can't even imagine how she feels, and I think that she's one of the strongest women that I know because of how gracefully she goes on. But when she lost the first one, she lost her fiance, I was able to go to the funeral. And she's Baptist, I'm Roman Catholic, so it's not a huge difference, but I can't believe how much of a difference there is in the way that they grieve. Or at least this particular funeral. Maybe, I don't know if it's every Baptist funeral, but this particular one, it was at Agape in New Jersey. I don't know if there's more than one. I think it was in Linden, maybe? I forget. But they asked that we wear white or red, which I thought already was interesting. But I also love this idea because it's funny. Growing up, my mom hates when I talk about this, but I've always told her, if I die before you, which we hope I don't, but if I do, please, I don't want anyone to wear black. I don't want anyone to mourn me. I don't want it to be sad. I don't want a viewing. I want a picture of me at my best, and I want a party. I want everybody dancing. I want everyone celebrating. I want everyone remembering my life and how much fun we had, and how I love to dance, and just how much I love bright color and all those things. Like, I just want it to be a celebration of my life, not a mourning of my passing. And I don't even know why I would always tell her that, but it's just so interesting that that was what I was drawn to. And so then I went to this funeral. This was my first experience. I'm very blessed that while I have had people close to me pass away, it hasn't been that many. I probably say maybe like a small handful. I've been very, very fortunate. And no one in my immediate family, thank God. Like, so, but yeah, like any funerals that I've seen or been to, it's not that party. It's the sadness, it's the black, it's the mourning. And then I go to this funeral and I'm told I have to wear white or red, not black. And not only that, like, I did not personally know my friend's fiance. I did not get to meet him. I didn't get to like really like interact with him. But after leaving, I felt like I knew him, and I felt like he was an amazing guy. Like, the entire funeral, one by one, friends and loved ones got up and shared stories of fun times that they had, and anecdotes and joyful stories. And it was, instead of a day of sadness, it was a day of celebrating this life and celebrating all the amazing memories that everyone had with him. And the pastor even went on to talk about the fact that we're not mourning, like, we're sad for ourselves because we're gonna miss this person, but we're here because we know that we're also celebrating the fact that they're going home. We're having a homecoming. This is a homecoming party because this soul is finally getting to go back home to heaven, which is where we all strive to be. And I want to take this moment to apologize to anyone who is not of the Roman Catholic faith or the Christian faith or the Baptist faith. Anyone who does not believe in heaven, God, if you have different beliefs, please don't tune out because there are so many valid, strong points coming up, and this is just a small part of it. And I appreciate and am honored that you are choosing to respect my beliefs and my speech right now, just as I would respect yours if I was sitting in front of you talking. And also, I want to remind you guys that, as I've discussed in some of my other videos, in my interview with Jason Enrique from First Class, Second Place podcast, I am a firm believer that while we may use different labels and terms, deep down, I think most of us have very similar core beliefs. We just call them different things. So please, I ask that you respect and honor our differences as I would. So anyway, getting back, not to offend anyone, but yes, like we are of the belief that home is heaven. And this earth is temporary. Earth is just where we come to learn the lessons and to grow and to experience relationships and help one another and show our true colors. But heaven, that's home. If you're lucky, if you're good, if you're kind, heaven is home. And if you get to go there, you're the lucky one. We're the sad ones waiting for that day to come, and we're not rushing anybody. But it's a celebration when you get to go home. So I'm saying, again, let me say, we're not rushing. Like, we're not looking for it. But when it happens, we embrace it, because that's the beautiful journey. You know, life isn't about, that's the beautiful destination. Life isn't about the destination, it's the journey, right? Oh, that's it. Life is the journey, but the destination is heaven. All right, so little food for thought. But yeah, at the end of this funeral, I had to go up to this gentleman's mother and say, listen, like, I can't imagine how you feel, and I'm very sorry for your loss, but I want you to know that just hearing these stories makes me wish that I knew your son, because he sounded incredible, and that had to do something with you. And we hugged, and it was a really beautiful moment. And I hope that she has found peace, because I can't, especially after what I've just gone through with losing my dog, which some of you may think it's silly, but for a dog lover, like, it's like losing a baby. It's like losing a child. So I can't even imagine. So where all this is going with grieving and death and loss, I kind of just want to tell you guys that, and I'm going to get back into this with the second part of this, is just, again, what you resist persists. So however you need to grieve, however you need to go through your mourning process, allow yourself to do that. And if you know someone going through it, allow them to go through that. Be there for them. Understand that everyone grieves differently, and encourage them to not suppress what they're feeling, because what you compartmentalize, what you hold down, what you suppress just explodes in the long run. So you want to allow yourself to feel what you're feeling so that you can release it and be your most emotional, healthy self. The second part of this, I'm trying to go fast. I realize I'm still taking a long time in telling my stories. As I said, I lost my dog. That one I'm still struggling with. While I'm able to find a lot of peace with my grandmother's passing for many reasons, my dog, that was my baby. And anyone who knew her, she was the best. She, especially in the beginning when I first got her, she went everywhere with me. I was yelled at Walmart, at Target, at IKEA. But granted, I never had her out. Like, she was in her bag, in her little carrier bag. So I had her with me everywhere, but some people are just unhappy with their own lives and cranky and have to complain about everything. Because let me tell you, she wasn't bothering anybody. Nobody else even knew she was there, but there's always that one person that has a problem with everything. Whatever. But she was the best. I mean, to the point that I had I know I've mentioned to you guys, the one good ex that I had, he's the one that I lived with. And before we lived together, when we first started dating, his parents did not like dogs. Like, his whole family, like, was not really dog people, I would say. He was Cuban. I'm also Cuban. And now I understand, because a few years ago I did get the opportunity to finally go and visit and see my culture and where I come from. And that's when I finally understood that in Cuba, dogs aren't traditionally considered pets. Like, you'll see dogs, but they're just like stray, dirty animals that are walking in the street, and it's sad. And there's a lot of them that, like, I remember when I went, there was one that he was just walking around with a broken leg. And it was horrible, but like, they don't love dogs the way that we do in America. So anyway, fast forwarding, his parents, not dog people. Until they met me and Muriel. And his mom used to say it that Muriel made her like dogs. Because Muriel was so sweet. And she would be cooking and Muriel would like go next to her and she would give her a little something. And like Muriel was the sweetest. So when we started dating, like I told you guys, I was that person that like when I had my dog, if you invited me to a party, hey, cool, yes, I'm coming. Is it okay if I bring my dog? Like I brought her everywhere. I took her to the beach. I took her everywhere. I mean, there's dog beaches, but yeah, like I took her anywhere I could. There was a long period of time that like, it was just, she was my ride or die. She was like always with me. So when I would go to his house, especially if I would stay the night, I would say, listen, like, just so you know, I can come, but I'm bringing Muriel. Okay. So he lived under his parents and, but you know, we would visit with them and I would bring her up for a little bit. Like we wouldn't keep her up there, but little by little, like she just stole their heart. And that's the testament to the dog that she was. Like, I feel like, a lot of people that met her, even if they weren't dog people, they grew to love dogs because she was just awesome. I remember my one best friend, she was always terrified of her because Muriel had a bark worse than her bite. Like Muriel was that girl that didn't know how to handle her feelings. And she wants you to touch her, wants you to play with her, wants you to love her, but she doesn't know how to act. So what she does is she stands in front of you and barks really aggressively, but she's not trying to hurt you. She's just saying, hey, touch me, pet me, love me. And once you did, she was a mush, a total mush. And yeah, my one girlfriend was always scared of dogs, especially Muriel, because she thought she was so aggressive. And then I don't even know what happened. One day I had a housewarming party at one of my apartments that I moved to. And I see Muriel sitting on top of her. I'm like, wait, I thought you didn't like dogs. She's like, yeah, but we bonded. It's like, okay. And I mean, then, you know, as time progressed, she had a baby and her daughter and my dog got to play together. I have some cute pictures somewhere of Muriel and her daughter rolling around on the floor. Yeah, and just good memories. Everybody that met Muriel, if you didn't love her from the beginning, you fell in love with her in the long run. So it was just a hard loss. For 13 years, she was my Velcro dog. I used to call her that all the time. She was my Velcro dog. She was always attached right here. If I was sleeping, she was right here. If I was laying on the couch, she was right here. Anywhere that I went, she was in the passenger seat. Like, she was my little Velcro dog. If I walked from here to the kitchen, she was right behind me. Like, I was Mary, had a little lamb, and she was my lamb. And I say for 13 years, even though she was alive for 15 and a half, because, you know, unfortunately, I thought at one point that getting a second dog was going to be beneficial for her, especially like if I had to go out, you know, she would never be alone. Like, she would always have a buddy. And I had that thought, and then I didn't pick my second dog. She picked me. And while it was very challenging it's been challenging for the last 3 years that I've had her, well, 2.5 years that I've had her, I don't regret it. And I know that I was supposed to find her. She was lost, and I found her. And I thought, you know what, like, and at this point I had already told myself, like, I think I should get a second dog. I wasn't going to keep her, though. I was looking for her owner. Like, I was calling the police departments. I was calling animal hospitals. I was calling everybody. But I didn't want to just leave her in the street and, God forbid, have her get run over by a car. So I took her home. It took me a week to find her owner. When I finally found her owner, I thought it was bizarre that they told me, oh, well, you live kind of far. You can keep her. I can keep her. So long story short, I do feel, as I lived with Janet's her name now, I realized that I don't know who, I don't know if it was the person that I spoke to on the phone or someone in passing, someone was hitting her because she was very skittish. If I picked up the broom to sweep, that dog would bolt across the room. If I picked up a fan to fan my clients, like, she bolted across. Anything that could potentially be used to hit her, she was terrified of. And that's not normal. That's not natural. You couldn't touch her feet. Like, she was very skittish. And within a couple of weeks with me, like, she completely relaxed and realized, like, oh, I'm safe. And so, like, I do think that in the long run, it was the best scenario for her. And also, I found out in the process of speaking to her former owner that she was, like, the secondary owner. It was her grandfather's dog, and he passed away. So imagine this poor dog lost her first owner, then gets passed off from the second one. And at some point down the mix, someone was hitting her. Like, she needed love. But when I took her in, I didn't know that I was pregnant at the time, and I was. So it was just a lot all at once. And my once partner in crime, soul, roommate, now has to share the spotlight with not one, but two other people, and one that unfortunately I have to prioritize. Not unfortunately, but unfortunately for her and for our relationship. So I will say that in my grieving process, there is an element of guilt, because for the last 2 years, I've told myself, I'm so tired and frustrated. And also my baby, I loved her, but, like, she picked up some really nasty, like, bad habits as she got older. Like, she would poop and eat it, and she didn't always do that. And that would make a big mess for me to clean up. And then she would pee on the pad and tear it up. And again, then pee would be everywhere, and that would make a mess for me to clean up. So it was just like a lot of work, but she was worth it. And I just kept telling myself, well, when Gracie gets a little older, I'll be able to give Mumu that affection so that she can have her twilight years as loving and just knowing how much I value and appreciate her as possible. And I feel that guilt because we never got back there. I was never able to get back. Like, we were right there. We were at the cusp of getting there. And I honestly, even though I know people say, well, but she was 15 and a half. Yeah, she was 15 and a half. But she was so healthy that I thought for sure we had at least 2 more years. At least. Like, honestly, I think I thought Muriel was like my grandma. I thought she was like a little baby werewolf, like a little puppy werewolf, because she also just, like, especially for a pug, for her not to have massive health issues, breathing issues, eyesight issues. Like, yes, she had gone partially deaf 3 years ago and had cataracts, but she could still see and she could still hear somewhat. Like, if I made a loud sound, like, she could hear. If I used more bass in my voice, she could hear me. But yeah, like, she was healthy. So it was definitely like a big shock. And I think that's the thing. I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't prepared for it. This was my first love. This was my baby. This was like I met her at 8 weeks and I took her home at 9 weeks. And I did everything. Like, we went through everything together. I crate trained her. I potty trained her. Like, just everything. Like, I raised her. And she was my best friend. Like, it's literally, if you aren't a dog person, you don't understand, the best way I can explain it to you, and I know you may think it's silly, and that doesn't matter to me, but it's like having a baby. So to lose your baby, it's hard. And imagine, I've had her for 15 and a half years. I got her when I was about 21 years old. My entire adulthood, it was associated with Muriel. I literally got her right before I moved into my first solo apartment. So she has been my entire adulthood. She has seen me through 2 of the 3 parts of that domestic violence video that I made. Like, she has been the one being that I held on to and cried to in my sadnesses, in my traumas, and also hugged in excitement with my joys and my excitements. And, like, when I was pregnant, she would cuddle with me and keep me warm, because some people in pregnancy, I feel like the common thing that you hear is that pregnant women are very hot. I was ice cold. Like, everything, like, it was painful how cold I was. So having her cuddling with me felt so good. You know, it was nurturing and it was warm. And then I had Janet, so I had one on each side. It was fantastic. But yeah, so anyway, long story, again, as short as possible, I have to tell you guys that, again, what you resist persists. I have not resisted. I have sobbed. Like, sobbed. It hasn't been a week yet. It's only been, at this point, 4 days. And I have let myself sob every time I needed it. The next day when I woke up, I went in autopilot and I served 2 bowls of food, and I was about to put them down. And when I realized what I was doing, I sobbed. Every time my daughter Gracie says, "Mumu, where are you?" I sob. Mumu was in love with Gracie. And that's the one thing that does give me, like, solace. Is that the right word, solace? I gotta look it up. I think that's the right word. It gives me peace about the fact that I have guilt of not being able to be as affectionate with Mumu as I was before my daughter was born, is the fact that I know that she loved my daughter. Like, from the second that I brought Gracie home from the hospital, wherever Gracie was laying, Mumu was right under her or right next to her. Like, almost, it looked like she was always protecting her and watching for her and making sure that she was okay. And, like, I remember there were times where I would put, you know, the boppy pillow, that, like, the round for breastfeeding? I would put that either on the couch or on the floor or on the bed, and I would put the baby in there so that she could sit upright while I would sit next to her and do whatever I needed to do. And Mumu would come right next to her and on the pillow just, like, put her head and just lay there and watch her. Like, she was the sweet one. Janet was like, her and Gracie had a love-hate relationship in the beginning, but Mumu just loved her. And Mumu, I swear, she felt like she was her baby. Yeah, oh my God. She was great with her. And it also is, like, hard for me because when my daughter was younger, I mean, she's not even 2 yet, but as she started speaking and learning new things and learning the word dog, she associated dog with Mumu. So anytime she would see a dog, at first, it was always, Mumu, Mumu, Mumu. And so, like, ugh, like, that's hard for me. Like, yes, now she knows Janet's name, but, like, every dog was always Mumu. And, like, when Mumu passed, she passed at home. It happened out of nowhere. It took all of but 30 minutes. I mean, she had been breathing heavy for 2 days, and I thought it was allergies, but I kept monitoring her. And again, it's the testament of intuition. Really quick, I want to just point out that, like, the night before she passed away, something just told me. I looked at her and I said, "You don't look okay." And I haven't been, unfortunately, since I had my daughter, I haven't been letting her sleep in the bed to minimize dog hair. And I said that night, I said, "You don't look good. I want you to sleep with me." And I'm so grateful that I did that, because, again, like, my intuition was telling me, like, this is it. And I put some holy water. Like, I keep a little bottle of holy water, and I blessed her with some holy water, and I prayed. I said, "Dear God, please, we're going to take her to the vet tomorrow. Do not make me have to make that decision." Like, that's the one thing that I dread. And if anyone has had to do it, like, my heart goes out to you, because I understand. I mean, I don't fully understand, because thank God I have not ever had to make that decision. But I can only imagine what it must feel like, because you must be torn. Like, well, what if there's something else? What if I just wait one more day? What if this? What if that? And I could not do that. I couldn't look at her and know that I am the one that decided that her life was over. So I prayed, "Dear God, please don't make me make that decision." And I held her, and we slept. And I had that one last night with her. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm grateful that my intuition told me to do that, because at 6:30 in the morning, she woke up and she was trying to get off the bed. And I put her down. And when I put her down, her legs just gave out, and I knew. And I called my landlord, who's very much into dogs. She fosters dogs all the time. And I asked her, like, where can I take her? It's a Sunday morning at 6:30 a.m. What do I do? And she came up and she looked at her and she said, she's not going to make it. And I'm glad. I'm grateful for her. That was another blessing. Like, I could sit here and be sad about everything, or I could sit here and look at all the blessings between my grandmother and Muriel and like the way that things panned out. And I'm choosing to find the blessings. And the fact that she said that to me, because I think I would have been devastated in multiple scenarios if I would have decided to take her and she passed away while I was driving and I wasn't able to hold her. That would have been devastating. If we would have gotten to the vet and they would have taken her in and she would have died in a sterile room, either by herself or even if I was there, or if they would have told me she's about to die, we have to do, like, you have to make the decision now. Like, that would have been devastating. But instead, like, God, my baby Muriel, both of them gave me the gift of not having to make that decision and being able to hold her. I held her the entire time. It took 30 minutes. She woke up at 6:30 a.m. and by 7 a.m. she was gone. And we sat actually right here, right where I'm sitting right now, and I held her and I hugged her and I sobbed over her. And as I did, like, I couldn't help but think of all the times that I have held her and cried to her for some heartache that I had been through or some loss that I had experienced. And she was always there for me. And this time I was sobbing for her and for me and for the fact that I knew I wasn't going to have her anymore. But at the end of the day, like, I'm grateful that I was the one that got to hold her, and that she knows, even if I wasn't able to fully give her my love and affection in the last 2 years, like, in that moment, she was loved. In that moment, she had mommy. And in that moment, like, she appeared to be painless. Because it was calm. It was weird. It was very peaceful. Like, her breathing went from being very heavy to just slowly slowing down. And her heart started slowing down. And she just went. But she went at home and peaceful and painless. And exactly how I would have wanted it to happen, just not yet. And I just feel like how many people don't get that opportunity, and I have to look at that as a blessing. And you know, it was bittersweet that I asked my landlord to grab Gracie so that she could say goodbye before Mumu passed. And she was tired and cranky and didn't fully understand what was happening. But right after Mumu passed, she put her head on her back and she started rubbing her and said, gentle, gentle. And that's something I've always taught her with dogs. Like, you be gentle with them. And she usually does that. She'll put her head on them and say, gentle. But she did that with Mumu as she passed. And that was special. And it's hard. And like, when I say, again, going back to the topic, what you resist persists, like, I haven't stopped myself. If I need to cry, I cry. And one thing that was interesting is that, like, my landlord, I know that, you know, she does things a little bit differently than I do. But like, when she went to get Gracie, she looked at me and said, you need to get yourself together because you don't want her to see you like that. And I thought to myself, no. I want my daughter to understand that it's okay to feel your feelings, that it's healthy to feel your feelings, that it's healthy to release them. And that's actually the healthiest, kindest thing you can do. Because if you hold them in, then you get resentful, then you lash out, then you have triggers and all of these other things that spiral. And it's so much better and healthier to feel your feelings. So I'm grateful that I feel very comfortable showing my feelings appropriately in front of my daughter and letting her know, like, it's okay to cry. Like, there's one phrase that I've adopted. Well, actually, not just adopted. I think I created it. I don't know. I don't think it was anywhere before. But the phrase that I like to use in my home ever since I got pregnant was, and this is something I hope my daughter always remembers, in this house, we pray first, we laugh often, and we cry when needed. And that's something that I really want her to always hold on to and remember, because I think that those three things are so important. I think that you need all of them to feel happy and balanced and find joy in every situation. You have to allow yourself to laugh. You have to allow yourself to cry. And you have to remember that pray first. You have to remember that God has you in the palm of his hands. God, universe, source, whoever you believe is your higher power that protects you, they have you in the palm of their hands always. And when you need them, you have access to them. You just have to pray. So, yeah, like, again, I could look at the devastating, hard parts of this, or I could go through and say, how blessed was I? How blessed was I to be intuitive enough to see these things coming and give myself what and that person or that being what they needed before losing them, before saying goodbye. And how blessed was I to have such a long amount of time with both of them. Because 15 and a half for a dog is a long life, especially for a pug. And 101, like, we can't even go there. So, yeah. I think that that's really important. This video looks like it's going to be just as long as the other one. Apparently, even when I take out all of the details, I still can't keep it short. But that's okay, because I think this is all valuable information. I hope that you're still staying with me and sticking it through. The last point that I want to make as far as what you resist persists. So a while ago, I don't remember how long ago, but it was a while ago, I was having a difficult time with how I was feeling about a specific situation. So something had happened and I just couldn't feel good about it. I was like not being able to sleep over it and thinking about it. And like, funny enough, the words that came up in my brain was shame. I said, why do I feel shame? I don't understand what I'm feeling. I can't feel shame. No, I reject this. I do not want to feel this. I absolutely will not feel what I'm feeling right now. And the funny thing is, I've always known, not always, but in the last few years, I've known this phrase, what you resist persists. But in that moment, I had completely forgotten it. And I am so grateful and so blessed. And I've talked to you guys about this, that I am fortunate enough to have not one, not two, but many friends that breathe life into me, that I know that I can call and that I know that are very supportive and loving, but also truthful and honest with me, that will not just coddle me and say, oh yeah, you're right, when I'm not. Or on the flip side, that will shame me or do, like, no. I have friends that are supportive but honest. And I'm grateful for that, because I'm the same way. I am that friend, that I am supportive but honest. So if you want me to be in your life and if you want to ask me my opinion, please, like, don't ask me my opinion unless you really want to know it. So I am grateful that I have this one specific friend. And I would say that she is my processing partner. So if you don't have a processing partner, I highly recommend it, because one thing that I do want to talk about is I think that in the healing world and in therapy world and like a lot of things that we're taught, if you're going through any type of like a growth journey or a healing journey, you may hear that like, oh, venting is toxic. You know, talking about something over and over and over again is toxic. And I agree. I think, and I've noticed it for myself, that yeah, like when you keep retelling the story, sometimes it's cathartic and sometimes it's helpful, depending on how you're telling the story and why you're telling the story and who you're telling the story to. It can be cathartic and releasing, but there are certain situations, especially like situations that make us like yucky and uncomfortable, like situations that are not ideal, that we don't like that happened. Sometimes it's just toxic venting and you're just giving it more life. It's like fueling a fire, right? Like if you think of it that way. But on the converse side, I think that processing and having that one person that you trust, that's the other thing too. A lot of times when we toxic vent, we will tell that story to anyone who'll listen. We will tell that story to the clerk at the supermarket. Anybody who has an open ear, will tell that story to. And all we want is for them to be like, yeah, you're right. That sucks. No. But that's not a processing partner. A processing partner, like I said, is someone that you trust and that you feel safe with. And it's speaking about the situation with the intention to find a resolution or to find an understanding. So this is not just me saying, oh, this happened and it's bullshit and I don't want you, oh, pardon my language, guys, and I don't need any suggestions. I don't need your advice. I just want you to listen to me. No, this is me saying, and it's funny because even you can ask her, even when I call this friend, and this is something that I know I've talked to you guys about in the video that, or the audio video that I discuss, are they available? When I do call her in stressful moments and in distress, I always try to remember to say, hey, I'm going through something right now, but are you available right now? Like, do you have time right now to talk? Because I need to process something. If not, it's okay. And I have to honor that if she tells me no, I have to accept and respect the fact that, okay, you have to sit with this a little bit longer or you have to find someone else. But give her a minute and see if you can wait. And I'm grateful that for the most part, she's always been able to hear me. Even if she's busy, she tries to find the time to hear me, even for a minute. And honestly, with this friend, even a minute is enough because I feel like we're so in sync. Like, we've been friends for like almost 25 years. Oh my God. Girl, 25 years. That's crazy. Yeah, oh my God. This is 14. So we're 14. Oh my God. So we've been friends for a long time. And like, I just feel like we're that in sync that, like, we were attracted to each other in our lives for a reason. And I'm grateful for her. So I called her and said, hey, like, I've got this going on right now. Are you available? I could use some help processing what I'm feeling. And as I told her about the situation, I started crying when I talked about one particular part of it that I didn't even think that this was the problem. I thought this was the problem or this. But this, I was mind blown that I started crying when I told her this because I had never said it out loud. Because I was resisting. I was taking the shame from this and this and pushing it down and saying, no, you can't feel that. So not only would I not tell myself inside, I definitely wasn't saying it outside, but once I said it out loud to her and started sobbing, I realized, maybe this is the problem. And maybe this is what I need to work on. And maybe this is how I can take this uncomfortable feeling that I'm having and bring it full circle. But what's interesting is that she, as my trusty processing partner, is the one that was able, because thankfully she is very like-minded. Like, we're both very mindful. We both are very much into self-help and therapy and, figuring out why we feel what we feel. And so she was able to bring it back to me once I started crying and all this stuff and finished telling her the story. She said, babe, like, I think you just need to allow yourself to feel what you're feeling. And she's the one that pointed out, again, even though I knew this phrase from my past, I had forgotten it. And she resurfaced it for me, that what you're resisting is persisting. You're trying so hard not to feel this that it's becoming overwhelming because you have to feel it. You have to let your body go through those feelings so that you can release them. And once she said that to me, I was able to offer myself the permission, yes, to feel what I'm feeling, and to accept the fact that, yeah, I'm not proud that I feel this way, but I do. And pretending like I don't feel it isn't serving me, and it's not serving the situation, and it's not serving anyone. And instead, it's going to make me resentful and bitter and feel stuck. And it's going to block my energy and my love. So I'm better off just accepting the fact that, oh, crap, I feel this way, and that's okay. And that's something that I want to make sure that I teach Gracie. Like, I want her to understand that, babe, like, even when you feel yucky feelings, it's okay. You're human. That's life. And you have to feel it to release it. So I think that's all the points. I tried to keep this as quick as possible, but again, I think this one's still, it might be a little shorter than the other video, but not by much. And the point is, again, that I want you to stay focused on allowing yourself to feel your feelings, whether you are grieving the loss of a loved one, of a pet, of a relationship, of a job, of a lifestyle, of age, of material things, whatever you are mourning the loss of an ideal, of something. Like, I've had to do that. I've had to mourn the fact that my life is never going to go how I always dreamed it would. Like, the map in my head of how everything was supposed to go is never going to happen because it's already out of order. And that's okay. But that was something that I had to mourn. And I'm saying that to offer you the opportunity to understand that this is not just something that happens when we lose a loved one through death. It can even be if a friendship breaks up. You have to mourn that loss. There's many times in our life where we have to go through these feelings in the grieving process, and it's perfectly okay, and it's perfectly natural, and it's perfectly normal. And I just want you to remember in those moments, hear my words, and remember to allow yourself to feel. Allow yourself to go through what you're growing through. Don't resist things, because the more you resist, the more things stay with you. And if you just can pause for a second and get really uncomfortable right now, in the long run, you will be way more comfortable because you will have allowed yourself to process and go through the feelings and release them. So my wish for you is that if you are grieving the loss of anything, I'm sending you love and prayers and peace, and letting you know that you're not alone, that so many of us are on similar journeys and similar paths, and the main characters are different, but the plot lines are the same, and maybe it's out of order, but we all go through very similar situations that just look different. And know that you're not alone, and that you're going to be okay. And there's nothing wrong with crying in front of people that you trust. I mean, there's nothing wrong with crying with people in general, but I would say more so with people that you trust and you feel comfortable with. It's perfectly okay. And honestly, I think that that helps build your intimacy even more, because they know that you trust them. And make sure that it's someone that's trustworthy, because there are some, we've talked about this, about some negative, toxic people that will take those moments and use that against you later. But if you trust this person, like I know for a fact that my friend, my processing partner, I can say anything to her and we're good. Anything respectful I can say, rather, let me say that, because I don't want people thinking that they can just be nasty to people. No, like, I'm always respectful, but I can say anything to her and know that she gets me. And so, yes, I'm sending you all my love, letting you know that you're not alone, and also encouraging you, advising you, and suggesting to you that if you don't already have a very dear, good friend that you can go to as a processing partner, I suggest highly that you start looking at your circle and see who you can maybe recruit for that role. And remember that it is not a one-way street. Being having a processing partner also means being a processing partner and allowing that person to have you to confide in and feel safe with. And it's a really good dynamic to have in your life. So I highly recommend it. And if you have stayed with me for this full video, I thank you, because this was a long one. And I appreciate you and I love you, and thank you for your support. If you are one of the people that have reached out to me during this time of great loss in my life and sent me your condolences, thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for all the love and the support and the kindness and the patience. Thank you for your patience while I was away for a week. And I adore you guys. And I hope that someone found this message helpful, even though it was very long-winded. I hope you found it helpful. And have an amazing and limitless day. I love you guys.